Most people don't lose their integrity all at once. They lose it at threshold, in an argument, in a moment of urgency, in a room where everyone else is saying yes. Pressure doesn't destroy character, it reveals what governs it. I'm Kay McLeod, and this is Integrity Under Pressure, a podcast about self governance, consequence literacy, and how to protect your integrity when willpower isn't enough. Because integrity isn't a personality trait, it's a governance skill. Two people can live the exact same moment and walk away with completely different realities. Not because the event changed, but because the story did. And the story is what decides what happens next. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them. That is not a quote for reflection. That is a warning. Because there is a specific kind of self betrayal that does not look like reactivity. It looks like maturity. It looks like restraint. It looks like composure. It looks like being the bigger person. But internally, it is not composure. It is a narrative. It is your mind taking a moment and turning it into a verdict. And most people never notice that shift because it happens fast. Something small happens. A short message with no reply. Someone walks past you without acknowledgement. A meeting ends and you're not asked to speak. The moment is small, and then your mind feels it. They're disrespecting me. They always do this. I'm not safe here. I can't let that slide. Those are not facts, those are stories. And this is the part most people never govern. Not ego in a vague sense, narrative. The space between what happened and what it means. Because if you govern that space, everything changes. And if you don't, you will live a life where other people appear to control your internal state. They made me react. They pushed me. They caused this. And it will feel true. But it is not precise. You do not react to reality. You react to the meaning your system assigns to reality. And meaning is not neutral. Meaning determines your physiology. It determines your tone. It determines whether you respond with clarity or escalate into conflict. So you don't need a new personality. You need governance. Governance over meaning. Because the story recruits your body, not the moment. Let's slow this down. Someone interrupts you. That is the event. Then your system assigns meaning. They don't respect me. Now your body is not responding to an interruption. It is responding to a perceived threat, as status threat, an identity threat. And that is a completely different situation. This is why two people can hear the same sentence and react in opposite ways. One hears feedback and thinks, this helps me improve. Another hears the same sentence and thinks, they're trying to embarrass me. Same words, different meaning, different system activation, different outcome. This is not abstract. This is cognitive appraisal. In simple terms, your emotional response is shaped by how your system interprets what is happening, not just by what is happening. And this is where people lose precision. They treat interpretation as fact,
They don't say, I am telling myself a story. They say, this is what's happening. And the moment you collapse interpretation into reality, you lose agency because you cannot govern what you believe is objective truth. If it is just true that someone disrespected you, then reaction becomes justified. Now you have to respond. Now you have to fix it. And if you don't, you feel weak. So you react or you suppress. And either way, there is a cost. This pattern shows up everywhere, in work, in relationships, in families. The moment is rarely the problem, the meaning is. And meaning arrives fast. It sounds like you, it feels certain, it does not say maybe. It says, I know. I know what that meant. I know what they're doing. And if you don't interrupt that, you become someone who lives in constant internal tension. Not because people are attacking you, but because your system is continuously assigning threat. Now, let's make this practical. There is a chain: event, meaning, emotion, behavior. Most people try to control behavior. Stay calm. Don't don't react. Be professional. But by the time you reach behavior, the system has already assigned meaning. The match has already been lit. You are trying to stay calm while your system is telling you that you are under attack. That is not discipline. That is suppression. And suppression, it always accumulates pressure. Now, I want to connect this to something earlier, the band story on episode 8. Not because it was dramatic, because it was precise. Most breakdowns do not start loud, they start silent. You don't say something, you absorb tension. You assign meaning privately. And then you live inside that meaning, externally calm, internally building a case. And pressure builds, not from the situation, from the story. And one day, it releases. And everyone else experiences it as sudden. But for you, it has been building for months because you were living inside a narrative that was never tested. That is the danger of unexamined meaning. It does not get challenged, it gets reinforced. And the more you rehearse it, the more real it feels. So when you avoid addressing something directly, you do not remain neutral. You create a vacuum, and your system feels it. They meant to, they don't care, they are against me. That is not clarity. That is ungoverned meaning making. Because under stress, your system is not optimizing for accuracy, it is optimizing for protection. It wants a story that resolves uncertainty, even if the story is wrong. Now, let's bring the science in clearly. Before your body commits to an emotional response, your system evaluates. What does this mean? Is this a threat? Is this a loss? Can I handle this? That evaluation determines your response. Same event, different meaning, different reaction. So, governance is not about removing emotion, it is about improving the accuracy of your interpretation. It is knowing in real time, I am interpreting right now, and pausing long enough to ask, what meaning did I just assign? Not as therapy, as precision. Because if you don't question the meaning governs you. Now, let's look at common distortions. Intent certainty. They meant that. They're doing this on purpose. Once you assume intent, you stop investigating. You move straight to judgment. Pattern inflation. This always happens every time. Rarely accurate, but highly convincing. Urgency. I need to deal with this now. Sometimes true, often just discomfort, demanding solution. Identity threat. If I don't respond, I'm weak. Now, you are not responding to the moment, you are defending your identity. And that amplifies everything. Now, the consequences. Internally, you become tense, vigilant. You cannot relax. Relationally, you respond to people based on your interpretation, not their actual behavior. You become sharp, distant, or corrective. They feel it. Then identity erosion begins. You start to lose trust in yourself because you see how quickly your internal state can be hijacked. Then reputation shifts. People become less open, less honest, not because they don't care, but because they don't feel safe being misinterpreted. And then your story reinforces itself. They don't respect me. No, they don't feel safe being read incorrectly. That is different. Now, let's make this concrete. You share an idea, someone responds. We tried that already. That is the event. Your system can assign multiple meanings. They're dismissing me. They have more context. They're stressed. Your body responds to the meaning, not the sentence. Same with the text. You send a text message, and they reply, K, period. Your system builds a narrative. They're upset. They don't care. Or they're busy. Same input, different reality. And here is the truth. Meaning is not random, it is patterned. It is shaped by past experience, identity, and conditioning. So, governance is learning to interrupt automatic meaning assignment, not to become passive, to become accurate. So, here is the move: separate the event from the meaning. Event, they said we try that. Meaning, they're dismissing me. Then ask, what else could be true? That question expands your perception. And that expansion is where control lives. Not control over others, control over your response. This does not mean you excuse everything. If something needs to be addressed, you address it. But you address behavior, not the unverified story. That is the difference between governance and reactivity. So when you feel the surge, do not ask how to calm down. Ask, what meaning did I just assign? because that is the hinge. If you catch the meaning, your physiology shifts. If you don't, your body commits to the story as if it is fact. And you will continue reacting to interpretations as if they are reality. So here is the real question: what story are you living inside that you have never verified? And what would change if you stop reacting to the meaning automatically and started governing what your systems assigns before your body follows it? If this episode did anything, let it be this. You saw the pattern. Pressure is not the problem. The question is whether you govern yourself inside it. Hold that and decide what you're no longer willing to do on autopilot. Because integrity isn't a personality trait, it's a governance skill. I'll see you on the next episode.